have to gear up. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. We are going to be talking about my least favorite books that I read in 2025. I'm excited to do this because I'm not just gonna I don't know. I don't think it's that deep. I like watching these videos actually because I think it's just interesting to see the different experiences that people have with books, because sometimes people will just have a completely different reading experience than you did while reading a book. And obviously, like, my favorite book could be someone's least favorite book. I actually watched a few of these videos so far from other channels, and there was a book that was on my top 10 list that I've seen on two different people's worst list. So I mean, it is what it is. Like, everyone has different reading taste and different reading experiences, so we're gonna through and talk about my least favorite books that I read in 2025. I don't have these really in any specific order. I'm not gonna go from like 10 to my absolute worst book of the year. I'm just going to kind of go through each one and talk about it. The first three that I want to talk about are three that I read in May that put me into the worst reading slump I have ever experienced. In May, I read two 5-star books, which was When the Moon Hatched and Wayward, and directly after that I read three books that I did not enjoy at all, like literally at all, and it put me into a horrible reading slump. I only read like 5 books in the course of like 3 months because every time I would pick up a book I was like, I cannot do this, I hate it, I'm not in the mood, like, no. And I think it was because these 3 books that I read back to back that just put me off from reading for a bit. I needed like a hard reset. So out of those 3 books that I read in May, the first one we're going to talk about is Riftborn by Lennox and Greenwich. I know this is a really popular book and a lot of people really like this series. I did not enjoy a lot of this book. The beginning I thought was really great. It's basically about, if you haven't read it, it's about a girl who, she had this magic and she accidentally used it in a really bad way, and this commander, I'm pretty sure, of this training army situation, he witnessed her doing that, and instead of like turning her in, he was like, how about you come train with me and I'll teach you how to use your magic and then you can basically fight for me. And that's, I guess, kind of the premise of like how it's set up. And the whole beginning part I really enjoyed, like her with her sister and that dynamic, and then the magic system I thought was cool. The FMC I thought was really interesting. I thought she was really well written, I guess, and like fleshed out. And then once she got to the training, I enjoyed it for a bit, and then it just got really boring. Like a majority of this book I was like, okay, like we're not getting much progression, I feel like not much is happening, I'm kind of bored. And then I was just hanging on because everyone says that the twist at the end of this is insane, so I was like, okay, I'll just finish it just to see what the twist is. Literally the most underwhelming twist I think I've ever read for as much as it's hyped up, if that makes sense, because when it happened I was like that was predictable, and I feel like if it was that, there could have been something more added to it, like maybe like more of a twist. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it. I just felt very underwhelmed, and I was kind of put off by it because I was like, everyone hypes up this ending so much, and I just was like, okay, like, I don't. That's the first one. The second book that I read in May that started my reading slump was Blood and Steel by Helen Sure. Is that her last name? This one, the beginning I was really enjoying, like the way it started out with her and her sister, and I'm pretty sure they worked in a apothecary, but she really wanted to be a warrior, and in this world women are forbidden from wielding a blade because of this prophecy that is in this world, but that's all she wants to do with her life, is become a warrior and train. Something happens where she's able to train with the MMC, and again, I really liked the beginning of this. I liked the dynamics, the characters I thought were great, the side characters I really loved in this book, especially like when she starts training and some of the guys that she's friends with inside of the training. I really liked them. I thought that part was done really well. But once we got into like the actual part with the training, I just felt like it kind of fell off after that, again, kind of like with Riftborn, and I was just like a little bit bored. And then there was these trial situation things that happened at the end that I, again, thought were just like, well, I kind of thought that they were a little bit rushed and underwhelming. And so there really wasn't anything about this that I like hated, but the main thing that I disliked about this book was the romance, because it felt like they went from enemies to being in love with each other like instantly, and it was just really spicy. Like, I don't know, it just, to me, I didn't feel like we got a really good progression with like a slow burn or anything like that. To me, it just felt like they were like enemies straight to lovers. So that's what I mainly disliked about this, is because I was like, we didn't even get, like, I love romance in fantasy books, especially when it's like a subplot, and it felt like we didn't get that very well fleshed out, and so it kind of just was like a little bit of a letdown, because I like seeing that progression of the love story, you know what I'm saying? When I finished it, I was like, yeah, I don't think I'm going to continue this series. I had no desire to continue. I still haven't. I know I won't continue this series. It was basically just two very underwhelming books back to back that I was like, okay, I need something that is going to hit, you know? So I was like, well, maybe I should try to switch up the genre. So I picked up Older by Jennifer Hartman, and yes, I did know that this was more of a taboo, forbidden romance going into it, and that's what I wanted. I wanted to pick up something that was like a little bit out of the box and kind of like jarring almost, where it would like be really interesting and fast-paced to read, you know? And I did not like it. Again, I knew it was gonna be taboo. I knew that it was best friend's dad going into it. I just felt like the way it was executed was not my favorite. I didn't love it. I don't know. It just felt like, I don't know how to explain it. I didn't like it. Being in the, did we get the guy's POV? I'm pretty sure we got the guy's POV, because I remember being like in his head or his thoughts or whatever, and being like, ooh, no, I don't think that's right. I just remember being very icked out by it, and I understand that that's probably my fault for the type of book it was, but again, I knew it was that going into the book, and I wanted to love it. I did. I don't know. I just didn't like it, and then it put me into a big reading slump. The next book that we're going to talk about is Blockshot by Kennedy Ryan, which really pains me. It really pains me to say, because Longshot by Kennedy Ryan is my favorite contemporary romance book that I've ever read. I loved Longshot, and I was so excited to pick up Blockshot. Oh my god. If I can give you some advice, it would be pick up Longshot, please. Love Longshot. Check your trigger warnings, and then skip Blockshot and just read Hookshot, because Blockshot was so bad. It was so bad. The way that it starts with the MMC and the FMC, like the little experience that they had while they were in college, was so cringy and very hurtful to the FMC, and then moving on into the future, like the now part of their relationship, she is in a relationship with another guy while them two are like kind of doing their thing and fall in love. And her fiance, I'm pretty sure it was her fiance, he's also sick on top of that. And on top of all of that, the MMC is freaking insufferable. He was insufferable. Every time he opened his mouth, I wanted to literally reach through the book and be like, stop talking, please stop talking. You were insufferable. He was so insufferable. He was extremely clingy and like whiny about everything, and I don't know, I just did not like this at all. He actually doesn't play basketball, but he is I guess like a manager, like a PR manager or something like that, and she is engaged to a guy, like a different guy that's in the NBA, so that's kind of like how the basketball part of it ties into it. But yeah, not for me. I hated this. I hated it so much. I don't recommend. I do recommend Longshot though. Okay, next is The Dead Romantics, which I know that this one is like a fan favorite. A lot of people love Ashley Poston. This is the only Ashley Poston book that I've read, and I definitely want to try different books by her. Like, I know The 7 Year Slip is a really popular one, and she has some other books that people really love, but this was during the fall time, and I was looking for like a quick audiobook to pick up. Bad idea. Literally a bad idea. The FMC, like the audiobook narrator, the way that she talks, I hate when narrators try to make him sound like so quirky and weird. I don't know, just like quirky. I don't even know how else to explain it, but they try to make him sound like so silly and goofy, and it's like, I don't need you to do all that. I don't need you to do all that. I get that she has quirky aspects to her and like traits, but it's not like she has to like constantly, I don't know. I hated the way the narrator did her voice and made her sound. I did not like that part of it at all. But the premise of this I thought was really interesting. She basically, her and her father, I'm pretty sure, are able to see ghosts and interact with them. And like the whole like funeral home inside their home situation, or I don't know, her dad, their family owned a funeral home, and that's like where they lived, I'm pretty sure. I liked the setting of it. It was like spooky, silly almost. Like I really liked that part, and the part with the dad and the relationship with them I thought was really sweet and precious. Basically the premise of this is she ends up, okay, so a guy that is she had worked with back where she lived, I'm pretty sure it was in New York is where she was working, he had ended up getting in an accident and passing away during the time that she was traveling home for her father's funeral, I'm pretty sure what it was. And then she ends up running into the ghost form of the guy from her work, and they end up like seeing each other like over and over and end up falling in love. But the part that I fucking hated about this was, spoiler, if you haven't read this book, fast forward to this time, he wasn't even dead. He was not dead. That, I was like, you're kidding. I just wasted a lot of my time. He was in an accident, so since he was in like a coma or whatever it was, he was kind of able to like cross over into like the spirit side, and that's how he was able to communicate with her in a ghost form, and he thought he was dead. And then he ended up waking up, and then that's how their love story was able to like conclude, was because he wasn't actually dead and they could be together. Anyway, I hated it. Nah, I wouldn't say I wouldn't hated it, but it was, I don't know, I just was like, that was not it for me. I did not like it. Next book on this list is Quicksilver by Callie Hart. Another thing that I've realized this year is I hate FMCs that are extremely bratty and just they want to be like argumentative so bad. I can't do it. The way that Saris and Kingfisher, the way that they would just argue all the time was so annoying for me to read. I was like, I can't, I'm so over this. Every single time they would have a conversation and he would try to just like talk about something, like ask questions or whatever, and then she would just have like a snarky remark every single time. Like, babe, give it up. Just be normal for like 5 seconds. And she couldn't, and I couldn't do it. Also, obviously everyone knows what Quicksilver is, I'm pretty sure, but she basically just ends up accidentally finding herself in this Fey land because the fact that she can kind of wield these metals and manipulate metals, and that's really important to the story. However, I feel like we didn't go that much into it. Like, we did for a bit, and then like so many other things happen, and like everything that happened at the very end, I was like, okay, and what about the alchemy part of this? Like, how did that tie into all of this? I don't know. It just was like, again, I liked some parts of this book, and especially Carrion. Was his name Carrion? I think that was his name. I liked him. I thought he was fantastic. He was hilarious, and I'm glad that he was kind of like woven into the story, and like his little plot twist storyline, I liked that. And I liked Kingfisher. I thought he was fine. But yeah, I don't know, girl. Saris really ruined it for me. If she wouldn't have been as, I get her being like that at first, but it just seemed like every time her and Kingfisher talked, she would just like say something snarky, and it was like, okay, I can't. You're just like a brat. Okay, next one is The Sirens by Amelia Hart, and this one was kind of sad as well. It's kind of same as Blockshot, because I read Wayward by Amelia Hart earlier in the year, and I loved it. I rated it 5 stars. And then I read The Sirens by her, and I just was like, what happened? Like, what happened to this book? And I read the author's note in it, and she kind of talked a little bit about how over the course of a few years, she wrote the same story like multiple times, and then kind of just like didn't love it and kept redoing it. And I feel like you can kind of tell, because there are multiple parts during this book where we get like a chapter POV, and we're like it doesn't really feel like it was meant to be there, or I don't know. The themes in this book also are very similar to the themes that are in Wayward. except I feel like Wayward really executed it in a way that felt like it made sense and tied into the character's story, whereas in the Sirens, it just felt like we like kind of like built up and explained some things, and then like that was it. Does that make sense? I don't know, it didn't feel like very conclusive to me, and it also kind of felt like there were POVs that we got from, I guess, like a past timeline, and that one felt very unfinished to me, in my opinion. And it was like we spent so much time going into this POV and the journey that they went on, just for it to kind of like end the way that it did. I was like, and for the current POV too, the way it ended with the sisters, I was like, I don't know. I actually don't know. I just remember being very unfulfilled, and also it just felt like what we were told, like the part that we, okay, so this is a good way to explain it. It felt like the entire book should have been shrunk down to the first like 100 pages and like told, and then we got like the rest, like the finish. It felt like it was just like the beginning of these people's book, just kind of like stretched out. I don't know if that makes sense or if other people agree. That's just how I felt reading it. It just felt very dragged out and unfinished. I would recommend Wayward though, because I loved Wayward. I thought that one was great, and basically like the same themes that have to do with women being mistreated by men consistently over all of history. So I have two more books. One is Nightshade by Carrie Lake, and this one, I will be honest, I did not read the like little last bit of this. I think I just read the spoilers for the very ending. And this one, again, is kind of similar to Riftborn and Blood and Steel, where like the beginning I really enjoyed and was enjoying the setup and I was into it. I was locked in. And then Nightshade, it seriously, I'm not even kidding, it felt like it was going on forever and ever and ever and ever. And I was like, could we wrap it up, please, babe? Like, I don't know, like, that's why I ended up just kind of like not finishing the last little bit of it and just like reading like a little spoiler for the very ending, because I was like, I can't do this last like 100 page, like I just can't. I don't there was too much. It was too much. Like it was too long. It was too long, and it's such a shame because I love the setting and the little tie, like I like when books have like a past POV and the way that it ties in. I love that. The plot I thought was really interesting, especially what we got at the beginning of the book with the FMC and the way she was kind of investigating like her dad and his death and like what all was going on with that. I really liked it, but then it felt like once we got into like where she was for the majority of the book, it felt like that part just like dragged on forever, and I was like, okay, can we like get some answers? Can we progress? Like, I don't know. I think that's like my least favorite type of book, is where we start off so strong and then we just drag everything out. It's like, no, let's keep the pacing. We need to keep the pacing consistently through the whole book. And if that makes it shorter, then that's fine. It doesn't need to be 700, 800 pages. It just doesn't. Anyway, the last book on this list is like the most controversial one for sure. And that is because it's a fan favorite. Definitely a fan favorite. And it's one that is, especially for the people that I follow, which is mainly like fantasy, romanticy, romance girlies. This is outside of that. So when girls like pick it up and they're like, oh my gosh, this is so good, it's a sci-fi and everyone should pick it up, and so I did, and I did not like it. And that's Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. But let me tell you, again, I liked the beginning, I liked the concept, the character, most of the characters, like the writing was very interesting in this. It felt like his sentences were extremely short. Like, let me grab it really quick. This one, I don't know, like he just says like, I polish off my glass, period, and then it like moves on to a next sentence. Like, it's just very like short. Like down here, Daniela drinks her wine, period. Charlie drinks, period. The moment passes, period. You know what I'm saying? Here we go. I lift my arm, raise my thumb, period. I don't look back, period. I don't say goodbye, period. Like, it's, I don't know, it just was like very choppy writing. That's just his writing style, I guess. I just feel like when we're in someone's head, that's not typically like the way our thoughts go, or it's just like, it's usually like a streamline of thoughts, you know what I'm saying? Like, not that they need to be like run on sentences or anything, but it just was like very choppy and it felt very unnatural. So with certain characters, which that's not even my beef with this book, like that, the writing part, I was like, whatever. The writing was just like an interesting note, I guess, that I had about it. But my beef with this book is the ending was so chaotic. Oh my god. If you read this book, then you know, But there's basically a situation where he switches lives with like a different him. So basically it's if he would have made a different decision in his life, like the trajectory of his life, what would have happened instead of, so basically one was like him choosing his career and becoming a scientist, like a renowned scientist, or him staying with his wife and having this baby, whatever. And it's like they switch, so he switches lives with another him from an alternate universe basically. And the ending, well, basically the whole book is him trying to find his way back home because he's like, I didn't ask for this. I love my child and my wife. Like I obviously wasn't like the perfect life that I envisioned for myself, but it's not like I wanted to just leave it. So he's like trying to find his way back home, right? So towards the end, not to like spoil anything, this not necessarily as a spoiler, but towards the end when he's like trying to get there and find his way back home, what happens with like the other hymns, oh my god, I just was like, this is too much. Like, this is too much. And I understand like the concept, like the way that the author chose to consider that factor. I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it because I just was so over it. I was like, I cannot do this. And then it ended and I was like, not for me, babe. And I know a lot of people really love this book, and the core of the story was him trying to find his way back home to be with his wife, who he loves and adores, and his son, of course. So a lot of people love that factor of it because he is realizing how much he loves his wife and how much he values his family, and so he's like trying to find his way back home to them, which I think a lot of people really appreciate. And the yearning of it all, I think, is what really gets people. But for me, it just was like, it was the ending that really ruined it for me, because for the most part I was like, yeah, this is interesting, this is cool, I liked it. I liked the like traveling aspect of it. I was like, yeah, this is cool, we're having fun, like whatever. And then the ending, I was like, okay, wrap it up, babe. Like I cannot do this anymore. So those are my least favorite books that I read in 2025. No hate, I know a lot of people love a lot of these books, like Quicksilver, Dark Matter. Like, these are very popular books, I guess you could say, for the most part. So if you liked these books, no hate, I promise. They just weren't for me, or I just didn't have a good experience with it. I also acknowledge that sometimes I read a book on audio and I immediately recognize that I shouldn't have read that on audio. I should have just read it physically, kind of like with Dead Romantics. I think if I would have read that physically, and I wouldn't have had the like quirky, silly tone to her voice, because I obviously would have just been reading it in my head, I think I would have enjoyed my experience a lot more, and then maybe the ending I would have found a little bit more sweet, or I just would have had a different experience overall. You know, like the way you consume books definitely hits differently, and sometimes audiobooks come off really well and we really enjoy it that way, but sometimes I finish a book on audio and I'm like, yeah, I should have just read it physically. Which, moving forward, I'm definitely going to do more. Like, I've already done that with one book this year, which was Gideon the Ninth. I got like over 100 pages into it, and I recognized, like, I know I'm gonna love this book, but it is not hitting on audio, so I'm gonna wait until I have time to read it physically, or I'm in the mood to read it physically, because I'm not gonna try to force books on audio anymore. And if that means I read way less books this year than I did last year, then that's fine, because I would rather slow down and enjoy the quality of a book rather than just like trying to consume it really quickly and then not enjoying it, if that makes sense, as much as I could potentially. But that doesn't mean I won't listen to audiobooks. I of course will. Like, there are some books that serve beautifully on audio, like I Medusa, for example. Amazing audiobook. 5 stars. I had a great experience reading that on audio. But yeah, let me know what your least favorite book was that you read in 2025 and why it was your least favorite book, because I would love to know. Because I feel like it's always like specifically catered to you, because everyone has just different life experiences and different reading experiences. So let me know what your least favorite was and why. And yeah, I will see you in my next one. Bye!